This next one is from the fabulous Cheyanne Holliday from Gold Magnolia Sanctuary, where you are right now. So Cheyanne is an activist, author of Plant Peace, energy healer, and self-taught chef. At the impressive age of 19, she opened a vegan restaurant and community event center in Fairfield, and she has used the knowledge from that to help start the Stone Soup Community Kitchen, which hopefully you'll all join us for dinner at tonight. Currently, she is the kitchen director there and is writing a revolutionary fantasy series by the title of Akua. So welcome, Cheyanne.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. So today, like she said, I'm going to be talking to you about the Stone Soup Community Kitchen. I'm going to be talking about what we are, why we do what we do, and how you too could do it if you happen to have interest in that sort of thing. So the Stone Soup Kitchen is located inside of Golden Magnolia Sanctuary, which is where you're all sitting right now. As you can see, it's a pretty big building. We have space for a lot of different activities, and we are a community event center. People use pay as you may, so they donate whatever they want to rent out any of the spaces. And there's a lot of renovations that we want to do to expand and build upon the building so that we can continue serving people. But today I'm going to be specifically talking to you about the Stone Soup Community Kitchen. So before we get started, what is a stone soup? I didn't know when I joined it. I hadn't picked the name, and I was like, I don't get it. But a stone soup, the story dates back to the 1700s and is in essence a story about community. Everyone in the village adds what they can to the soup, and it turns out that each ingredient combines to make something delicious. It's a story about how when we all come together and share resources, we can prosper. When we care for one another, we live in a more fulfilling life, and that is the essence of the Stone Soup Community Kitchen. We were born on August 10th, 2022, so we're almost 2 years old, and this is our second Vegfest. Myself and Laura were both board members of Golden Magnolia Sanctuary, and we're the co-organizers of the Midwest Vegfest. The point of this festival is to bring people together to learn about veganism and also just like bring vegans together for a fun event, but also to educate folks about what we're doing here in hopes that more people will make these happen elsewhere. So some values that we hold as an organization, we're pay as you may, so we operate on a gift economy, meaning that whenever anyone comes in to receive something, it's given essentially as a gift, and they have the option to gift us back whatever they would like. So there's no economic barrier to participation in this space. We're vegan, we only serve plants, and we're community guided and run, and our motto is with united efforts we all prosper, and this has been a huge pillar of that. Without the support of the community, this place really just would not exist. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 5:30 to 8 p.m. we are open for the community to come in and get dinner. And hopefully you're all going to come for dinner tonight. We're open a special Sunday so that you can see what service looks like, and I'll talk more about what we're serving later. But so how do we care for our community? I was talking about pay as you may. So the pay as you may model allows anyone in the community to dine with us regardless of any financial hardship or blessing they may be experiencing. They're free to receive a meal or 12. They can ask for however many they want when they come in. So we ask them, hey, welcome in. How many meals would you like? Some people do say there are families of 12, or people will get for their neighbors, or people will get multiple so that they have food throughout the week. And they're free to donate whatever they'd like to. Sometimes it's $0, sometimes it's $10, sometimes people drop in quite large sums on a check. But with no questions asked, anyone can receive as many meals as they request, as long as it's within our, due. If someone asked for 100, we might say something. But due to this, we have a whole host of folks who dine with us. Families, students, retired folks, people experiencing houselessness, and people who are quite wealthy. They all share in the same dining space, and our goal with that is to eliminate the wealth gap in this dining space. There's no paywall. There's people who are wealthy dining next to people who are quite poor. And this brings people together in a way that it just eliminates this financial barrier that is usually between people in these spaces. So this is a form of mutual aid. Mutual aid is about cooperation to serve community members, and it creates networks of care and generosity generosity to meet the immediate needs of our neighbors. It also addresses the root cause of challenges we face and demands transformative change, which is what we're working to do here. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like local gardeners and farmers donating a plethora of fresh produce. There's a couple slides that are going to show that, but the gardeners here are just so gracious. Last summer when we were open, we didn't have enough space for all of the produce that was being donated. We had to start turning stuff away. This year we do have a lot more space, and we have a free fridge outside now. So whenever we have leftovers, we pack them up, put it in the free fridge, and anyone can come and take that at their leisure. But the members of this community have just been so gracious in giving. We've had over 120 community members volunteer. Only a handful of those are regular volunteers, but we've gotten a lot of people in the community involved in helping out and cooking food. In the beginning, a busy night for us was 100 meals. Like, that was considered crazy. Now it's at least 100 every night, fairly consistently. That we're open, that we're serving. We've been doing a lot of like 140, 120 nights, and that's just become our new norm. So we're getting busier and busier, and people in the community that need us are being drawn towards us, and those that just want to support and enjoy our food are also being drawn towards us. So among those volunteers I mentioned, we have about 20 to 30 semi-regular volunteers. Ideally, we need 6 volunteers a night that we're open. We're open 3 nights a week, so it's theoretically 18 volunteers a week, plus there's a prep day as well. And so there is an amount of labor that goes into this. You know, if you've ever worked in a kitchen, you know how much work it is to like prepare food, especially for like hundreds of people. In addition to all of this, it looks like bands and solo musicians playing for those dining in. Every Saturday, a band called My Romance plays, and they're kind of this like smooth, jazzy band. They're playing tonight for you guys, so I hope that you can come and enjoy that. It looks like businesses donating food, supplies, services, and equipment. When you go down there, you'll see a lot of booths and tables in this corner of equipment that's like semi-broken but fixable, but costs tens of thousands of dollars, and it was all donated to us. We've had so many things donated to us. The free fridge outside was donated. Someone came and built a shed for it. And this has just become this hub for people to come together and find out how they can collaborate and serve their community. I said the free fridge thing. It also looks like folks buying us groceries and donating money. So often we'll put on our social media, hey, this is what we're cooking this week. These are donations we would really love to receive. And a lot of people will go and deliver us, bags of legumes, like groceries from the like fresh produce, all the different things. And also when people donate money, that's huge too, because we need to buy food for people too. And our electricity bill for this place is egregious, I'm sure you can imagine. And in addition, the mutual aid, it looks like people picking up food and dropping it off for their neighbors. So there's a lot of folks who are older, maybe can't drive, maybe can't walk here. And so a lot of people will come and just feed their neighbors. And that is a brilliant form of mutual aid, because if you're not able to feed yourself, you're probably going to go downhill fairly quickly if you don't have other folks to help and care for you. So it's awesome that people are willing to do that here. Here is just one example of, this was when we were going to farmers markets every Saturday, and at the end just asking if anyone had something to donate. All of this was just given to us. Here's another example. And this was within our first month of opening that all of this was coming in. And it was just overwhelmingly gracious. Really cool. Do you have a question? You raised your hand. Yeah, so that's what we have volunteer slots open for. Yeah. So we have a sign-up sheet. At the end of this, I'll have our website, but it's goldenmagnoliasanctuary.org, and we have a button that you can click where you can volunteer. Yeah, and then all the info is sent to you. So one of our tenets is also veganism. A lot of you may be familiar with that here, but in case you aren't, veganism is a philosophy and way of living which seeks to exclude, as far as is practical and possible, all forms of exploitation of and cruelty to animals for food, clothing, or any other purpose. This is something that was specifically critical for me with joining the team. My background a little bit, I went vegan when I was 17, and a month later became an animal rights activist, very hardcore for a while. I got really involved in like the Portland animal rights movement, and then was involved with some stuff in California, moved here into the heart of animal agriculture, got in trouble a few times, and opened a vegan restaurant and ran that for about a year and a half. And so I had ended up shutting that down because it was just very laborious for someone who was 19 and had never worked in a restaurant before to do. But once I shut that down, I wrote a book. And while I was selling that book, downstairs, the farmer's market moves indoors here into our dining space. And I was selling my book next to Tammy and Adrian, and they're the people that originally bought the building and had this dream. And they were sharing their dream of this place with me, and I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, what does your kitchen look like? And I was just asking them, like, have you gotten your inspection and your food certification management, and just all the little kitchen lingo I had just learned, having closed my restaurant. And they're like, no, we don't know how to do any of that. We were just hoping someone would join. And so they showed me the kitchen, and I was just like jaw dropped because their kitchen was pink and it had flowers and windows and it was big and a proper dishwashing station. And my kitchen had just been kind of this like little cove of a den, and I would just go days without seeing the sun, and it was just like sucking my little soul away. And so to see a bright, airy, big kitchen was just like heaven to me. And so they explained their dream of, opening a soup kitchen, and I was like, oh, well, that'd be cool if it was vegan. And they're like, yeah, that would be cool, but I don't know if that's possible. And I was like, I will tell you how it's possible. And I like made a whole presentation, and we're like slide one. They're like, that sounds good. And I was like, okay, well, I made a presentation. But so that's how I joined the team. And this, 2 years have passed, but circling back to veganism real quick. We're vegan here for the animals. Number one, we believe that animals are sentient beings who deserve bodily autonomy, which is a crazy idea these days, but one that I stand by very firmly. 92 billion land animals are slaughtered annually for food, and 99% of meat production in the U.S. is from factory farms. I don't know if you guys know, but in Iowa, we have over 10,000 registered CAFOs, which are concentrated animal feeding operations. Just a few miles from here, you could go and see one, and there's, thousands of animals that literally never touch the earth in their entire lifespan. And I think that is just like the worst thing you could do to someone is limit their freedom, but especially just like not even allow them to even ever lay contact with the earth or see the sun until they're being taken to slaughter. And we have no desire to contribute to that. We don't want to engage in the unnecessary slaughter of animals, so we just leave them off our plates. And since we're cooking for a large population of people, if we were to serve animals, we'd be contributing to quite a bit of harm. So we just don't do that. We're vegan for the planet. Industrial animal agriculture is one of the leading contributors to climate change. It's responsible for about 15.4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, which is nearly as much as the entire global transportation sector. And if the world adopted a plant-based diet, we would reduce global agricultural land use by 75% and cut greenhouse gases caused by food production by 70%. And 2.7 trillion, with a T, sea creatures are killed annually, which could leave our oceans devoid of most sea life by 2048. I don't know about you, but we really want our oceans to live. That's a passion of mine, as our ocean's not dying. And third, we're vegan for our health, for our individual health and for the health of our community. Plant-based diets have been proven to lower blood pressure, reverse type 2 diabetes. There's someone who's actually going to be giving a talk on that in a little bit, so if you want to stick around for that. They reduce the need for various medications, reverse heart disease, decrease cancer risk, help with weight management, improve cholesterol, improve brain health, minimize stroke risk, and increase overall lifespan. Now, this is many people, not necessarily all, but clinically a lot. And many people who are food insecure, which is a lot of the people that come and dine with us, they don't have access to healthful foods, which puts them at risk for serious health conditions, and we want to be healing people with our food. There's this system where people who don't have enough money to pay for healthy food eat food that poisons them, and then they get sick, which sickness also is really helpful for keeping people poor, if you've ever seen a hospital bill before. And so we don't want to be harming the people coming in here, we want to be helping heal them. Some dreams we have for the future. We'd love to turn our yard into a permaculture garden. Luckily, we live next to a university that has a bunch of permaculture students, so that is actually a realistic future. We'd love to adopt solar and wind power technologies to hopefully cut back on our horrible electricity bill. And we'd love to renovate the building and offer temporary housing for those unhoused. It's kind of a long-term goal because that would cost a lot more and involve a lot more community engagement, but we have quite a few people that are unhoused living in the area, and we would love for that to not be the case. We'd love for them to be housed. And we would love to help others open up similar operations. So on that note, buttons. Let's talk about how you also could do this. So step 1, you want to dream. What's your vision? What do you want your soup kitchen to look like? Where do you want it to be? At this stage, you want to dream big and you want to apply no limits to yourself. Just what is your ultimate top reality of like what space would you want to create? And write it down. Second step, you want to gather your dream team. This is not something you can do alone. I'm going to repeat it. This is not something you can do alone. We have a team, and it's really hard work, but it's something that you need a team in order to make a reality. You want to seek out people who have a passion for culinary skills. They don't necessarily have to have worked in a restaurant before, but they need to be willing to learn how, and if they have, that's a bonus. Managing a lot of volunteers, some who have never boiled water and others who have been chefs for 20 years, takes a lot of mental labor because you have to be constantly calculating what tasks you're able to give certain people. And just, it's definitely different than managing a typical kitchen where you have workers who consistently show up every day. In this structure, the crew's different every single night. Everyone has different skills. Everyone has different capabilities. And so it's definitely a learning process to figure out how to do it. So you want to find someone who has great management skills. They're very kind and compassionate, and they're a good people person. You want to find someone who can do accounting and do the books, because that's something that sucks for people that don't like doing that. Like, I don't like doing that. That was one of my biggest downfalls with my restaurant, is I'm like, I don't want to do this. With this operation, I don't have to do that, and I love that. You want to find someone who's very engaged in the community. Networking is huge for really any business, but especially for something like this, where you need the community to be involved or it will fail. You want someone who has good social media managing skills. This is another way to get the community involved and to get a bunch of people here. Like, a lot of you guys probably wouldn't be here if we hadn't posted and advertised on social media about this. And ideally, someone who has nonprofit experience and grant writing experience. This is an expensive operation. It is not cheap. And so retaining grants is ideal for longevity. I would suggest a board of minimum 3 people to start. And ideally, that board grows over time as you do. Step 3, you want to get specific. What's your name? What do you want to be called? Where do you want it to be? Like, where exactly do you want it to be? Maybe drive around town, see any buildings that are for sale or for rent. How many days do you want to be open? I would personally suggest 3 to start. As someone who goes to restaurants to eat, I've often been confused why they're only open for certain days. And then when I ran one, I was like, oh, I get it. It's because it's exhausting. And you're not just working the days that you're open. You're also prepping, and you're going to the store, and there's so much that goes into it. And so to start something like this, like when I first started my restaurant, we were open literally every single day for like 10 hours a day. I was very dumb, but I learned really quickly. So I would suggest 3 days to start. What times are you willing to be open? So, for the soup kitchen, it's 5:30 to 8 p.m. We're a dinner place, but maybe lunch would be better in your town. And what's your budget? This can be hard to figure out at first, but some good maths are good to do to figure out, what is your team able to afford to start out? And is anyone getting paid? How much? Eventually, you want people in your team to get paid, because burnout is real, and if you are working really, really hard and receiving no financial compensation, that burden just feels a lot heavier. Most of our team is unpaid right now, and we would like for that to change, because burnout is, as I said, very real. Are you looking to buy, rent, or seek a donated location or space? There are some church buildings like this that have kitchens like ours that may be willing to let you use their kitchen for this sort of thing. That would be a dream scenario, honestly, because as I mentioned, it's really expensive to have a big building like this because of the heating, the water, the electric, everything that goes into it. It's a huge money drain, honestly, if you're not able to fully utilize that space. And so if you're just looking to have a soup kitchen, I would recommend renting or trying to find a donated space at first before seeking to buy. But if you've got the money to do it, sure, go buy it. Step 4, you want to keep some things in mind about your location. Is it walkable? Is it within a good location in town that a lot of people can walk there? Is it handicap accessible? What's the dining space capacity, and how big do you think the capacity needs to be for your area? Like, how many people do you think are going to want to engage in the service? How many people can work comfortably side by side in your kitchen at once? You want a bigger kitchen if you're serving a lot of people. Is there any windows in the kitchen? As I said, windows are really nice because you feel like you're kind of outside a little bit and you can see the sunset perhaps. And personally, it just increases your joy. And is everything up to code in the kitchen? You want to give it a little inspection before the inspector comes. Make sure that you've got everything that you need. And then finally, is it affordable for the budget that you're looking at? Step 5, you want to get incorporated. This is the most fun part. You want to set up your business Google account, get everyone on Teams email, come up with a mission statement, create a business plan. You want to file as a 501c3 as soon as possible so that you can begin fundraising immediately. You want to have at least 2 people on your team begin taking the food safety manager training. You have to always have a food safety manager on premises with any kitchen operation, and so you definitely want to have 2 people have that at least because one might not be there. And you want to set up a website, online volunteer sign-up page, and social media pages across every platform, ideally. Just some volunteer tips. You want to be patient and be kind with people. As I said, they're all electing to be there. They're choosing to be there out of the graciousness of your heart. And so this is a very different kitchen environment than it would be in a lot of restaurants. A lot of people have like very toxic restaurant experience that was traumatizing. I try to make this the opposite, and a lot of people have said they're like, this is healing my restaurant trauma. So just make it a fun space, play music, like welcome people in. We'll often give people like treats if we have treats. Just make it a warm, welcoming environment and be really patient and kind with people because you don't know what experience people have had with cooking before, with serving before, with any of it. And so you want to make an environment where people want to come back. This is going to depend on how big your operation is, like how many people you're trying to serve. But for us, we have at least 6 volunteer slots per day that we're open. We don't always get those fully filled out. We found that our minimum in order to not like have a panic attack is 3 people volunteering. There have been days I've been alone, and those are really hard. And there have been days it's been me and 1 person washing dishes, and those are also really hard. The way that we operate is, so on Wednesdays we have a prep day, but on Wednesday we're preparing for Thursday. Thursday we serve food, but we're also preparing in the back for the next day. And so if we only have 2 people and 1 person's doing dishes and 1 person's serving food, then there's no prep being done for the next day. And so then that just adds to all the more things that have to be done by whoever, is in charge of that. So it's ideal if you have on your team several people that are in charge of managing kitchen stuff because it can be a lot if you're the only person doing that. And I'm the kitchen manager. That's it falls back on me, and I'm luckily not alone in the team. Like I do have other people I can call on, but it can be a lot. For volunteering, you want to have the time begin at least 30 minutes before meal service. Maybe you'll run it different and you'll have people come a few hours before to do some prep, but you want to not have like meal starts at 5:30, volunteers show up at 5:30. You want to give people some time to, first of all, be late because people are often late. And second of all, get like acquired with the space and be given instruction and all that good stuff. Some platforms to use for volunteering, volunteersignup.org and signupgenius.org. We've used both of them. Step 6, you're going to do some inspections. These are actually not that hard to pass. They're not as stressful or scary as they may sound. You want to apply for your food establishment license. And something that one inspector actually told me, he's like, we don't want to not pass you. Our paycheck is dependent upon you guys existing. And so it's very different than I honestly think it is in like larger cities and stuff. I was kind of shocked with like the leniency of it. But Iowa may just be a little bit different, but it's less scary than I thought it would be. But you do want to pass your inspection. You do want to be up to code, so you want to thoroughly read through a pre-inspection sheet and just make sure everything's good. And then you're going to pass your inspection with flying colors and get the license that you deserve. And then you're going to set an open date and begin community outreach. So you want to make posters, flyers, handouts, post on social media, and just verbally tell every single person you know so that they can tell every single person they know. You want to reach out to local gardeners and farmers about surplus produce donations. Think the farmers markets. At farmers markets at the end, we'll go and just say, hey, we're coming to collect any donations for the soup kitchen. Do you have anything you'd like to donate? And as you guys saw earlier, a lot of people donated a lot of stuff. You want to reach out to high schools, senior centers, and churches to let them know about this amazing volunteer opportunity. High schools in particular are usually looking for volunteer opportunities because usually they have to do community service hours in order to graduate, so that's a good place to look. And you want to reach out to donors and begin applying for grants. Next up, you want to create a menu and open. With creating a menu, you want to think about seasonal foods, like what's in season with you. You want to keep the menu semi-vague. Consider the labor needed per meal. Like, do you have the ability to prepare this meal for 100 people? It might be great with you and 2 friends at home, but can you do this for 100 plus people? Often it's no. Or you have to just simplify it a little bit. And you want to serve food that you enjoy eating because you're probably going to be eating there a lot. So the menu will likely be catered around like your taste buds. This is our menu for this upcoming month. Previously, for about a year actually, we just winged it. So we would fully just base our menu upon the objects that we had at the time, like the food items that we had, and people would come in and it would be a surprise. And that lasted for a little bit, but after enough time, people were like, hey, we would like to know what you're serving, which is valid. But the way we do it here, so we serve one thing every night that we're open, and it's consistently different. But as you can see, for Saturdays, we have Buddha bowls for a ton, and what that basically is, it's like a rice, veggie, bean, and some sort of sauce. And so that's kind of with the keeping it vague. But people have learned approximately what that means here. You see stone soup, so that's going to be whatever we have thrown in a soup. But then there are some things that are more specific, like orange tofu with broccoli is quite specific. So we'll often do like a few pretty specific things and then a lot of like vague ones. But the specific meals are consistently quite a bit more expensive. But yeah, this is our thing for the upcoming month. And people love this. People love knowing what we're serving. And so I would recommend doing this. Some longevity tips. Self-care is critical to avoid burnout. Do not be open more days than you're comfortably able to manage, and you want to give yourself time off and set boundaries. When you're engaged in this sort of thing, it kind of becomes like your town personality. So people will, if you're just trying to mind your business, everyone's going to come and talk to you about it, and everyone, you kind of become like the face of like what you're doing. And so if there are certain times where you're like, hey, I need to not right now. It's just important to kind of like set some boundaries and take the space that you need to. You want to involve the community as much as possible and ask for help relentlessly. The first year that we were open, every night I was just like, hey guys, we really need help tonight. And then whoever comes in, thank you so much for helping. And so it was this big thing of just asking and then being very grateful whenever the ask was received. And we're also just still learning this part. As I said, we're almost 2 years old, so we've made it this far, but we still have a long way to go, and we have a lot of growth to do, but we are determined to grow and to continue and to keep evolving and growing and hosting Vegfest. So every year you guys can come back and see how we've grown and changed. And so I'm excited to see how we continue to live. If you would like to get involved and you live around, or if you just want to come and visit sometimes to volunteer, our volunteering is Wednesday from 1 to 3:30 p.m., Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 5 to 9. You could donate garden goodies, which are vegetables or fruits, store-bought goods, or money. We definitely need all of those things. You could come and dine with us, experience it, post it on social media. And our website is goldenmagnoliasanctuary.org. And for the rest of the Midwest Vegfest, I hope that you guys stick around. We have 2 more keynote speakers after this. We're showing Christspiracy at 4:45 p.m. at the Fairfield Arts and Convention Center. And then we're going to have our community dinner here from 5:30 to 8 p.m. And there will be an after party from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m. So it's just a whole day of festivities. And for tonight, we are serving chickpea tuna-style veggie wraps, potato chips, cake, and Cotto ice cream. And there will be a performance by our in-house resident band, My Romance. So I really hope that you guys are able to join us, and happy Vegfest. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Yes. So permaculture is basically a type of gardening that is a lot more eco-conscious and aware of the way that like natural landscapes work. And so there's definitely people that are more able to answer this better than I am, but think of it like instead of like monocultural like growing stuff, it would be like polyculture. So it would be growing like a lot of different things in ways that are harmonious and working together to like better the soil health and all of that. So it's basically eco-conscious gardening. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What was the community reaction like when you first listened to it being a vegan subscription? I feel like
Yeah.
it's particularly like it's harder to like find vegan restaurants or like
Yeah. Largely positive. There were some people that were like, it's vegan. It would kind of like turn their nose up, but ultimately, like if they would do that, they probably didn't need it. The people who like need the service are usually very grateful for the service. But a lot of people in town have been actually quite open to it. And it's something that we don't push. Like everything that we serve is vegan, but we're not like screaming about being vegan, honestly, except for Vegfest. So this is our one time to be like, we're vegan. Come learn about veganism. But other than that, we have like some like pamphlets and information, but we kind of are just operating like as semi covertly plant-based, but people have been largely, it's been like great reactions. There have only been a couple people that were a little reactionary and triggered, but for the most part, I would say like 97% of the people have been quite positively receiving it, and especially because people can come and eat for free too. And so I think that that opens it up a little bit to people being willing to try, and also it being like a good cause. So people are like, oh, well, that's a nice thing. But there are some people who feel less fondly about it, but most people in the community feel really good about it. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes.
Just like curious, like it's like a small community, maybe there's like resources for different like measure impact.
Mm-hmm.
Like how do you measure your impact on the community? How many people like are maybe in need of like this service and just kind of like being able to kind of like coordinate your resources to better serve the community, I guess.
For sure. I would say that the way that we're largely seeing our impact right now is honestly by like the number of meals served and the way we directly and like the conversations that we directly have with people, because since there is no like people come in and we're like, show us your banking account so we can see how much you need this, we can't necessarily like judge the need based upon like face value necessarily, but a lot of people would directly talk to us and be like, I wouldn't have eaten today if it wasn't for this. Or like, thank you so much. I'm going through this serious medical condition and I can't afford food right now. And so there was one man, he was an older gentleman, and he said this is the best thing to happen to Fairfield in the last 30 years, or it was some crazy time like that. And so it's, I think honestly, through like directly engaging in conversation of like, how is this impacting like individuals and seeing how that like ripples across. But something like, I believe the number, I feel like this, I'm going to say this statistic wrong, but I think it's 1 in 5 people in Jefferson County, which is the county we're in, are food insecure. I might be wrong about that, but it was a pretty high percentage of people that were food insecure in this area. And so we know the need exists. When I did attend the university here, one of my classes was global solutions. We actually focused on food insecurity in this area. So it's interesting that, I'm here now. But through that, I did learn that there was a direct need. And so from that, I think it's just making sure that the people who have the need are able to get here and are able to know that this exists. And there is a level of like, you can see based on face value who does really need it and who is able to get it. And so I would say just based on observation of a lot of folks that do come in, the impact is being had, but there isn't really a distinct way that we can measure that just because of wanting to kind of allow like the anonymity of the people that come in to also take effect. And so, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any pushback or resentment from other restaurants that you're taking away their business?
No. I can imagine. I understand where you're coming from with the question, and I wouldn't say that no one's thought it, but no one said it. And one of the only other vegan restaurant here, actually, Raul, who he's giving a talk. I think it's after. No, in two. Yeah, Mike's talking, and then it's Raul. But Raul, he opened Mira's Cafe with his wife Pia, and his restaurant experience was volunteering here for like 4 months and then opening his restaurant. And so I know they love us, but I can't necessarily speak to all the other restaurants. But some other restaurants have also donated, like they cater an event and they have leftover food, and the vegan portions of that they donate. And so I would say like largely positive, but also because it is serving a need of people who. A lot of people who come here do donate and can afford, to eat other places, but a lot of people don't. And so I think it's not seen so much as competition as like another typical restaurant would be. Yeah. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
How do food allergies and things like that come into play when trying to serve the community with a kitchen like this?
Yeah. So we just do allergen notifications, really. I personally am like gluten intolerant. I just disrespect that about myself a lot. So I try to make everything either gluten-free or there's a gluten-free option. So that's always like a major thing. We don't use peanuts in anything. And when we do use nuts, we very clearly like label like this is nuts, or if there's like a cheese sauce, we'll be like, this is cashews. Can you have cashews? Because there is someone who was allergic to nuts, and it has been a situation before. So it's really just clearly labeling things and avoiding like major allergens, which by being plant-based, we do avoid a lot of major allergens. But yeah, it's kind of just mindfulness with like food preparation of like, okay, by putting soy in this, I'm eliminating, and you think of like the people that come in that ask about that allergy. So sometimes like I'll make, so we have like big warmers. So if we're doing like a soup, for example, and we have 4 warmers, I'll do one where we don't use tamari, so that those 3 people that have soy allergies can also have their thing. So it's just like mindfulness, really. Mm-hmm. I saw you raise your hand, yeah.
Are there any other malls like this around like Iowa, South John, Jefferson County? Are there any plans for you to expand these other here?
I haven't seen anything like this, honestly, anywhere, actually. I've heard about something like this in Asheville, but when my partner and I were visiting Asheville, we couldn't find it. So to my knowledge, we're quite original in what we're doing. I don't think we're the only one, like, ever, period, but we're definitely, I would say, the only one in Iowa. And our goal is that people will take this idea that are like our seeds will spread with the wind, and people will pick this up and do what they can to like start it in their own community, because we as a team are like just kind of getting by with doing this in our community. And so we don't have plans of like franchising and branching out, but we hope that other people will take what we're doing and start, that it will spread in that way. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I hope you guys enjoy Vegfest, and I would highly recommend seeing Christspiracy. But okay, bye.